Chapter 24. And the anger of the Lord was kindled against Israel, and he moved David against them to say, Go number Israel and Judah. For the king said to Joab, the captain of the host, which was with him, Go now through all the tribes of Israel, from Dan even to Beersheba, and number ye the people, that I may know the number of the people. And Joab said unto the king, Now the Lord thy God add unto the people, how many soever they be, an hundredfold, and that the eyes of my lord the king may see it. But why doth my lord the king delight in this thing? Notwithstanding, the king's word prevailed against Joab and against the captains of the host. And Joab and the captains of the host went out from the presence of the king to number the people of Israel. And they passed over Jordan and pitched in Aroer, on the right side of the city that lieth in the midst of the river of Gad, and toward Jazer. Then they came to Gilead, and to the land of Tatim-Hodshai, and they came to Danjaan, and about to Zidon, and came to the stronghold of Tyre, and to all the cities of the Hivites, and of the Canaanites, and they went out to the south of Judah, even to Beersheba. So when they had gone through all the land, they came to Jerusalem at the end of 9 months and 20 days. And Joab gave up the sum of the number of the people unto the king, and there were in Israel 800,000 valiant men that drew the sword, and the men of Judah were 500,000 men. And David's heart smote him after that he had numbered the people. And David said unto the Lord, I have sinned greatly in that I have done. And now I beseech thee, O Lord, take away the iniquity of thy servant, for I have done very foolishly. For when David was up in the morning, the word of the Lord came unto the prophet Gad, David's seer, saying, Go and say unto David, Thus saith the Lord, I offer thee 3 things. Choose thee one of them, that I may do it unto thee. So Gad came to David and told him, and said, Shall 7 years of famine come unto thee in thy land? Or wilt thou flee 3 months before thine enemies, while they pursue thee? Or that there be 3 days pestilence in thy land? Now advise, and see what answer I shall return to him that sent me. And David said unto Gad, I am in a great strait. Let us fall now into the hand of the Lord, for his mercies are great, and let me not fall into the hand of man. So the Lord sent a pestilence upon Israel from the morning even to the time appointed. And there died of the people from Dan even to Beersheba 70,000 men. And when the angel stretched out his hand upon Jerusalem to destroy it, the Lord repented him of the evil, and said to the angel that destroyed the people, It is enough. Stay now thine hand. And the angel of the Lord was by the threshing place of Araunah the Jebusite. When David spake unto the Lord, when he saw the angel that smote the people, and said, Lo, I have sinned, and I have done wickedly. But these sheep, what have they done? Let thine hand, I pray thee, be against me, and against my father's house. And Gad came that day to David, and said unto him, Go up, rear an altar unto the Lord in the threshing floor of Araunah the Jebusite. And David, according to the saying of Gad, went up as the Lord commanded. And Araunah looked, and saw the king and his servants coming on toward him. And Araunah went out, and bowed himself before the king on his face upon the ground. And Araunah said, Wherefore is my lord the king come to his servant? And David said, To buy the threshing floor of thee, to build an altar unto the Lord, that the plague may be stayed from the people. And Araunah said unto David, Let my lord the king take, and offer up what seemeth good unto him. Behold, here be oxen for burnt sacrifice, and threshing instruments and other instruments of the oxen for wood. And these things did Araunah as a king, give unto the king. And Araunah said unto the king, The Lord thy God accept thee. And the king said to Araunah, Nay, but I will surely buy it of thee at a price. Neither will I offer burnt offerings unto the Lord my God of that which doth cost me nothing. So David bought the threshing floor and the oxen for 50 shekels of silver. And David built there an altar unto the Lord, and offered burnt offerings and peace offerings. So the Lord was entreated for the land, and the plague was stayed from Israel. According to the history of the translation, David inquires of the Lord, or the Lord inspires David to number the people of Israel. Now, we know that that did not happen, because a couple of verses partway through the chapter, Gad, who is the prophet, the seer in Israel, basically comes to him and says, God is not happy with this. So we have to go back and think, did God move him to do that and then get angry with him because he followed instructions? Doesn't make sense. We can figure it out very simply because David sent Joab and his chief generals to go find the people. That wasn't the number of people that they came back and reported on. It was the men of military age. So what David wanted was he wanted to know how many fighting men he had. And the only reason for knowing how many fighting men he had was wanting to have some battles with somebody. And since he had had 40 years as king to deal with all the smaller groups that were in there, the Canaanites and Perizzites and Hivites and all the rest of them, it wasn't them. It was people outside of the promised land, and that's what the Lord was so mad about. Here's David trying to use the blessings that he has received and the number of people that he has and been made king over to go and do something the Heavenly Father had not authorized him to do, and to kill people that he had not been authorized to kill. And that's why Heavenly Father was mad. And the same thing happens in our lives. Heavenly Father's not going to tell us to go and do something that is going to harm other people or harm us, or it fits into some kind of plan where we think we're going to take advantage of somebody or do something else. And that was what David's design was, which is why Gad shows up, his prophet called seer, which is seer and revelator, which is two other titles for prophets, prophet, seer, and revelator, and says, God is really, really hot about what you're going to do. You get to choose. Now, he loved David. Heavenly Father loved David. David get to choose one of 3 punishments. A 7-year famine, which probably wouldn't have had a major impact on David, but certainly would have had a major impact on everybody in the country. Number 2, David could have been chased by people who were trying to overthrow him for 3 months, and at this point in time he's well over 60 years old and can't fight hand-to-hand combat anymore. People don't want him out there fighting. It would have been really tough for him to go, and other people would have suffered as well. Or a 3-day pestilence, which included death. And David chose the pestilence because it was the shortest duration thing. Well, it might have been short, but it was pretty severe. 70,000 people at least died in that 3 days. And that was so David would never, and nobody else would ever forget. You do not go having military adventures outside of the promised land. You do not number the people of war. You do not plan this kind of stuff. You don't attack. You defend yourself, but you don't attack. And that's the way our countries are supposed to be. We are entitled to defend ourselves. What we're not entitled to is attack somebody else. The Lord will support us if we defend ourselves. He will not support us if we attack everyone else. You take a look at every attack that was pretty well done all the way through the Old Testament. All the way, and any that might be mentioned in the New Testament in theory, or where you're talking about people who need to learn lessons about not being ignorant or forward or taking advantage of people. And what you find is those who defend themselves are supported by Heavenly Father. Those who attack other people aren't. And then there's the threshing floor of Araunah. And a threshing floor was a place with flat stones on it. It could be maybe 20, 30 feet across, flat stones, slightly up above the dirt. So when they knocked the grain out of the heads of the grain that they were growing, it would fall on the stones, not the dirt. And so when David showed up and told Araunah what he wanted, Araunah said, "Hey, take it. If you're the king, you can have all this. You take the wood for burnt offerings, have the cattle for, take the wood for the wood to burn for the burnt offerings, take the cattle for the burnt offerings, have the floor, perfectly fine with me." And David says, no, he'll pay for it. He won't offer anything he doesn't pay for. So that's what happens. He gets it, builds the altar, offers the sacrifices, and that spot becomes the spot later on where Solomon builds the temple.